we're ready to get started. So the first thing is the proper introductions to these lovely ladies that you see here. We have Elda Rivera. Elda Rivera is the HR consultant for her own company called No More Mondays. Thank you so much for being here. Then we have Maddie Earhart, and she is the customer marketing manager for an IT company called Logically. Thank you for being here, Maddie. And we have Nikki Bean, who is the senior software engineer for an education tech company called Otis. So thanks, Nikki, for being here. Okay, so we're just gonna go into it because this topic is about second chances, and it's about these amazing women have changed careers. They started out their careers doing something, and they're gonna tell us what happened, their story, and how they ended up doing what they're doing today. And the goal with the session is just to learn from them, ask questions, and just if you're thinking about changing careers or if you're going through the process, if you need some help, then we're here to help you by sharing our experiences. So I'm going to start with Maddie. Maddie, can you tell us a little bit about your story?
Yeah, sure. And thank you so much, Alina, for the introduction and for asking me to be here today. So my name is Maddie Earhart. I'm really excited to be here. When I was younger, I wasn't quite sure who I wanted to be when I grew up. And so that's why when I was in school, in college, I pursued a degree in English. I figured that if I could write and communicate effectively, it would give me an advantage in really any career path that I chose. So after college, I knew I wanted to make a difference in people's lives, so I decided to go into the nonprofit industry. So my first job was as the event coordinator for the Women's Conference of Florida. So Alina's in, snowy weather right now. I'm in sunny Florida. This role really allowed me to connect with many people. I learned a lot, and it was incredibly fulfilling. And as I continued to work in that space, I really had the opportunity to make contacts, and one of those contacts led me into the tech space. And I really found that industry to be exciting because it's always evolving and it requires you to stay up to date with the latest trends and developments. So from there, I really decided to make that shift into technology, and I got a job as a marketing coordinator and have since worked my way up over the years to marketing coordinator, to demand generation manager, to customer marketing manager, where I am right now at managed security solution provider. So it's been a really rewarding journey, and I feel really fortunate to have had the opportunity to work in various industries and a lot of different roles that have, helped me grow personally and professionally. Not to mention all of the mentors that I've really met along the way who have helped teach me, because without them, I don't think that I would really have been able to climb the ladder as quickly as I have at my age. So I'm very grateful. So yes, that's my story for where I am right now.
That is awesome. Thanks for sharing that. And I really love, honestly, I think what you have done you graduated in 2017, if I remember.
Yep, in the December of 2017, correct.
December 2017, yeah. So it hasn't been that long, like 5 years. And for some of us, I've been in the industry for 12 years, and it's taken me a long time to move. So I really admire you for all the progress that you've made in such a short career.
Thank you so much.
All right. So then, what about Elda? Do you want to tell us about your story?
I'm muting myself here just in case. Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Alina. Thank you for the invitation, first of all, to join this great panel session. So yes, Elda Rivera with No More Mondays. I am currently an HR consultant. Never thought that today I would be an entrepreneur myself. I went to study actually for accounting, an accounting degree. The first semester, I learned that it was not for me. I needed something more dynamic, something more creative, I don't know. So I switched to marketing, a marketing career. I embarked on that journey. I say most of my life, most of my years have been a mix of marketing, community relationship, and doing administrative work. So I got my master's degree in marketing. I was working in marketing, and then I landed a superb job that I thought, man, I really made it. I'm the marketing manager of this amazing TV station at that moment, and I was living the dream. And then through my work at a Chamber of Commerce, I developed many relationships and community relationships. And when I was working there, a university that was launching a new MBA program decided to give away a number of free MBAs through their local chambers of commerce. And I said, wow, nobody thought it was, they thought it was a gimmick. Like, yeah, right, a free MBA, like, no way. But since they were launching it in the Orlando market, they said, hey, we need a class. We need people, you know, to launch our program. So, hey, they went to the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, they went to the African American Chamber of Commerce, and they gave away like 20 MBAs. So I already had an MBA, and I said, why am I gonna do a new MBA at that moment? But then I said, how am I gonna say no to free education? Like, it's a free MBA. Like, I can add something, you know, to my resume, to my list. So at that moment, I said, okay, I'm gonna go and do human resources, and a master's with a concentration in human resources. And it was great to go back to school because I had gotten my marketing master's like 10 years ago. So, you know, the refresher, it was just great to be back. And I said, well, not only I love human relations, I love the human component, which was the side of marketing that I loved, that psychological human component about it. My sister has had her own HR consulting business for a few years now. I had learned a lot from her. And I said, well, if anything happens, I can always go work with my sister. So guess what? The station where I was working at got bought. A corporation came in, bought the whole station, and the first month, they laid off about probably, I don't know, 5 directors and other employees, and I was one of them. So there I was with my dreams crushed, thinking, what am I gonna do? So I started polishing my resume, you know, said I'm gonna go get a job. And then my sister was like, I am getting so much work. Like, and then she started getting these proposals to run events, do things that she had no time, no experience, and I had the experience. And obviously the time, because I was unemployed. So then she's like, well, what do you say? And then we said, well, let's give it a try. So we started working together. I said, you know, the worst thing is that can happen is that something happens and I need to go back and go get a job, you know, search for a job. So fast forward 5 years from now, we are business partners. We created an app together. I'm an entrepreneur, which I didn't think I was gonna be, but it has been a great journey. Together with my sister, we've had, you know, the flexibility to visit our parents back in Puerto Rico when I'm from. We take turns, you know, we divide and conquer. So that's where we're now.
Wow, that is amazing. And hey, you never know, right? You never know what's gonna happen. Never say never. So many follow-ups to your story, but we're gonna have all the session to do it. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, so now we have the moving camera. Nikki, all right, can you tell us about your story?
Hi everyone, I'm Nikki Bean. Thanks again, Alina, for the invite to speak here. I love to tell my story because, you know, it's awesome to know that it is possible to like change your path. So I graduated college in 2009. I had a degree in business administration because at the time I thought, hey, let me get a broad education in everything business related, and then I'll figure out where I want to go from there. That turned out pretty poorly. It was at a really bad time in the economy, and there weren't a lot of jobs available. And I kind of got stuck into an accounts payable role, and then branched out to customer support and then a sales operations role. I just realized that all of these roles that I was working in, I didn't feel passionate about. I didn't feel valued as an employee. And so long before then, I had always dabbled with development. I don't know how old anyone is on this call here, but I grew up in the age of MySpace. And so my first introduction to coding was really customizing my MySpace page to be colorful and flashy and have different music and all of that. So I had always kind of had a love and an interest in it. And then over time had been doing online tutorials and things just out of pure interest in the topic. And so eventually I got to the point where in my sales operations role, my company was bought out and they eliminated my department. So I was laid off. I was lucky enough to receive a severance for that. So I took all of that money and put it into a coding boot camp that I had been telling myself, I should really do this for years. I had been telling myself, you should do a coding boot camp. Like, you really like to code. That would be a really cool opportunity. And never did it. So I, getting laid off really lit a fire under my butt to pull the trigger and go for it. And so I did a coding boot camp. From there, I became a TA, a teacher's assistant at the coding boot camp. And then through people I met in the boot camp, I ended up with my first job. I'm still there actually because I love the company and I love what we do. But my first development job at Otis, and have worked my way up from being like a junior developer to a senior engineer there, and love it and have no second thoughts, no regrets about changing paths. It was the best thing I did. So.
Wow, that is awesome. Hey, sometimes we get forced into situations. It's like, no, this has to be your path, and sometimes you see it like a bad thing, but you made the best out of it. Thank you, thank you. So I think as I was listening to your stories, there was like a common denominator about contacts, people, relationship, mentors helping you. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because when we talk about changing careers, it's not like a one person mission. I think you need support from people. In Elda's case, was your family, but also a lot of people in the network, in your network. So can you tell me about like how you foster those relationships? Because sometimes it's hard. You could meet people, but it's hard to connect with people. Or how do you pick which people you're going to like attach yourself to? Just more about relationship, mentoring, contacts, and how you handle that situation.
I can go because that's my life story. I feel like in my journey, one thing has led to the other. Like, I've literally been, I'm not gonna say stolen, but almost from one job to the other. And I think one message that I wanna say is that the world is watching. So it doesn't matter what's your title, what's your position, what you do it well, because people are always watching. Your coworkers are watching, your sponsors are watching. When you're doing networking, people are watching, how you conduct yourself and if you're doing, your job. So whenever you don't even think that an opportunity is gonna come, you want people to have a good impression of you, because that's really what's the interview is done. They already interviewed you and you didn't even know it. So that has happened to me in several locations. Obviously, when I switched to HR was because of an incident, which was, I got laid off. But guess who are my clients now? The people that I met through all of the years of work, through all of the years of networking, that are now the people that refer me, that are now even my clients. So I would say, know that you're always being watched wherever you are, whatever you do, and whatever transition you make, never burn your bridges, because you just never know when you're going to encounter that person in the future. Even a boss that you didn't like or anything like that, there's ways to part ways from a relationship that you're not happy or comfortable, or a job that you're not happy with. Just go, with leaving a good impression always.
Awesome. I like it.
I think for
Maddie,
me, sorry, I'll go ahead. I think for me, a big challenge was getting over the fear of just like approaching people. There's this fear, am I going to be bothersome? Do they even care to talk to me? And honestly, my experience, it was the complete opposite. Almost everybody I ever asked a question, almost everybody I asked for advice was more than happy to share their story, give me any answer to any question I asked. And this includes people I just cold emailed through LinkedIn to try to find out about their company or whatever. And at least in my experience in the tech world, it's a very big community that centers around knowledge sharing and sharing ideas and collaborating. And so most of my struggle was within myself to just kind of get over the fear of approaching people and asking questions. And once I got beyond that, it was a lot easier to make relationships and connect with people and build up that arsenal of people I can call on to back me up when I'm looking for a job, people I know who will call me if there's something available. And so really that was the biggest challenge for myself.
Yeah. And I think here you're talking about two things that I think are very important. Well, everything is important, but one is like to take it on us. And a lot of people feel like, oh, but nobody asked me, or oh, but I'm there, and like nobody sees me, or things like that. And that could be the case, but also like if you do have like that desire to change, if you have like something coming from you and having that courage from you are the one that like needs to reach out and like take ownership of that. I think it's important to own that. And then when you talk about the fear of asking questions, I mean, it's I don't know why we put that on ourselves of having that fear. And one theory that I have, because obviously the name of Women Who Market, it's highlighting women, because I'm very intrigued on why we are the way we are and how we can overcome a lot of barriers that we put ourselves to the world to reach our goals. And one day, actually, I was thinking about this, about asking questions, and like kids, man, like since the little kids are like kind of trained to ask questions, and very important questions. Do you want to go to the prom with me? Do you want to be my girlfriend? Do you want to marry me? Like these are huge questions, and since the beginning they're wired to ask questions. And maybe that's why they feel more comfortable reaching out and not for us. So that's something that we just need to be mindful of. Hey, it's okay for us to also ask questions. Yeah.
For me, it goes a little bit towards imposter syndrome too, because I think about, the confidence and not being in a new career path, and as a marketing coordinator, new coworkers, you want to have those mentors. You're afraid to ask those questions because I feel like I'm not supposed to be here. But then once you realize these people, they're flattered when you ask them for that mentorship too, and they're here to help you. They want to help you. And so I've noticed that a lot with a lot of the mentors that I have, and I still talk to them every day. People will always be willing to help you when asked. And going back to the tech community too, it's also a very tight-knit community, because I see when people move, between jobs in the tech community, a lot of them, it's, there's several people that, they're still working together just at different companies that I've noticed. And there's so much camaraderie. And again, it's the thought leadership, the knowledge sharing. And so there's a lot of that mentorship. So I really think that it's such a great resource. And I still talk with all of my mentors from my first job in the tech industry. So I think that it's such a useful tool.
Fantastic. Yeah, people. We talked about one of those things in our classes today. That's the foundation. That's the foundation of everything. People. Awesome. So I think there was also a common denominator, at least with the topic of having a layoff in order to make a change. And I actually have never gone through that, but I know a lot of people that do go through that, and I'm sure that it's horrible. So can you share experiences about like how, I don't even know if that gets easier, like how you, if somebody right now is going through that experience, like what do you recommend for them to do, and what do you do to kind of get out of that funk?
I think that's a great, it's scary. It's definitely scary. I mean, don't feel bad because you're scared. Don't feel bad because you're sad. But I think it's a great time to reflect on actually what your passions are and what you really want to do. Like it happened to Nikki, perfect example. I happen to have a sister that was already, working by herself and learned a lot of lessons and doing great. So I was lucky to have something that I felt that I felt too, or that fell in my lap because it was here. But if you don't have that, just take that time to really reflect on what is it that it's really your passion and what you want to do, because it's the perfect moment to do that, to do whatever you've been thinking for a while.
And I like that you say, don't feel bad for feeling bad. That's good. Sorry, Nikki.
No, that's okay. I was just going to say, it took me a long time to like even come up with an answer to that, because it really, like, just thinking about it, I still feel sad and I still can feel those scared feelings. It's a tough time, but I think you have to remember that you are a strong, resourceful person and you're going to figure it out. And it's hard to sometimes see the forest for the trees when you're in it. But in my experience, I've actually been laid off of a number of jobs, all unexpectedly. And every time it has made me a stronger person, and I have ended up better for it. So while it's really scary and stressful in the moment, in my experience, it's led to bigger and better things in all cases.
And I think, for example, what you guys did, that it aligns with everything that we say here, and everything that I believe in, which is actually the power of education. Because of course, being laid off, yeah, it means lacking of an income, but also means the opportunity to have time. And time, it's a wonderful thing. So what do you do with your time? You could do many things. Even you could have gotten a severance package and then just chill until the money was, you didn't have any money, and then figure it out. But you making the decision to invest that time into educating yourself. And that's why we do these classes here, and that's why I'm so passionate about education, because education is like the one thing that once you have it, once you understand it, once you're good at it, like nobody can take that away from you. Nobody. No matter how many layoffs you have to go through, if you have that knowledge and if you're good at what you're doing, you're gonna be fine. So I love that you guys both went to school and just go back to school and then start learning different things. That's awesome.
And
Cool.
then
I do want to, oh, sorry. I do want to add, I had regretted not having taken that jump sooner. Obviously, getting laid off really lit the fire under my butt, but I had the itch for a long time. So just if you're feeling the itch, don't wait till something bad happens. Like slow and steady, you can start learning new skills now, even if you're not necessarily ready to take the jump. Take little bites off. See if that's really where you want to go. The more you know. So I think that if you're feeling like you want a second chance or you want to manifest a second chance, go for it.
Yeah, trust your gut feeling. You were you going to say something, Elda?
Oh, I was just going to say that I could imagine somebody being laid off in the 1990s versus somebody being laid off today. It's so different because the reality is that today there are so many resources out there, but so many resources. I mean, there's boot camps, there's short courses, there's whatever you want to do, there's something out there, you know, at a different price, even for free, that you can educate yourself in. I mean, you can even teach yourself at your house. That didn't happen before if somebody got laid off or, you know, something happened. But there's so many resources today that there's really, you know, whatever you want to do is just a matter of doing the research and go for it.
Yeah, for sure. So now let's talk about that first, assuming that for the audience, assuming that everybody took the first jump and now they're in a different career. Because Maddie, you mentioned something that it was that when you said it, I was like, oh my God, that's exactly what happened to me. I've always been in marketing, but in different roles. And when I got my first manager role, I was like, all these people know like so much, like that asking me for my opinion. I was like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? And you mentioned something like when you first started like as a marketing coordinator that you were like, oh my God, all these people like I'm here, like I come from, I would imagine that you said like I come from like nonprofit events, like what the heck am I going to like provide here? So it's like a two-type question. One, is it hard to get like the first job once you change? How is that process of getting that first job? And two, what advice, like what do you do, or what advice you can give the audience on to how to handle all that pressure and all that thoughts that come in your mind when you have that very first job in that different field? Am I making sense with what I'm saying?
Yeah, you are. Restate the first question again, because I want to hit that one first.
Well, that one is for you, like not when you made that change. So how hard was to get that first job in the different industry, that process?
Yeah, for me, it's, you know, making the connections. Just join all of the groups you can on LinkedIn, get those feelers out there. LinkedIn is a really, really great tool. I don't know if I put that in the resources that, you know, Alina, you shared out in the chat feature, but I think that, you know, anything that you can do as far as, of course, for building up your personal LinkedIn page, because that at the end of the day is your personal brand. So I think that that's huge to be able to market yourself. And so if you can't get out physically, get out virtually. And that's going to really help to build up your opportunities and be able to get feelers out as far as trying to make that shift. Also, you know, have everyone you can, you know, review your resume, start to build that up, make it look as, you know, professional as humanly possible to, you know, edit it again. I mean, I break mine down, I build it up constantly. It's just that continuous improvement process, right? And then, you know, just meetups too is another one that I do. Obviously, during COVID, that was impossible unless you do it virtually, but I'm a huge fan of meetups. And, you know, the tech space, I know we're very heavy on the tech side in this discussion, but there's so many in my area, in the Tampa Bay area, because that's a very tight-knit community where you can just get out and talk to people. And that's where you really get those opportunities, especially if that's not a field that you're in currently, but that you're interested in entering, and people will be so helpful there and just trying to get your foot in the door. So that's something that I would recommend, because I had the opportunity of, having those connections, being in, the conference space before, because it was just larger scale where I was able to meet individuals of that, similar space. And that's how I was able to kind of, infiltrate, the tech industry and where I got my interest and get my position. But for someone who is not currently in the situation that I was in, that's exactly how I would recommend, kind of going about getting, a new position.
Awesome. And then once you have the new position, like, I know that you felt a little bit nervous, but do you use any tips, or did you read anything, or did you tell yourself something to kind of like get you through?
Right. So for me, obviously, the biggest thing was the learning curve, right? So I had no previous experience and everything was just new to me. So you have to go in and just learn the basics to kind of create effective strategies, because when you think about marketing, the only experience I had was on the consumer side. So that's, you're thinking about a business to consumer perspective. So, in my space, I was in a B2B, which stands for business to business. And so I was marketing to, and I still am, C-level executives, VPs, directors of, technology. So that was a completely new concept. So really, when working through those challenges and trying to overcome my fear of this, you have to dig into a lot of different resources. I read a lot of books. So, everybody writes. I really went back to the basics on that one, even though I have a degree in English that's working on, just grammar, effective storytelling, that kind of thing. And then just the guidance of my coworkers as well. And then there's just their varying levels of experience. And that really helped me overcome some of the imposter syndrome that I was, having within myself. And it helped me overcome my confidence issues and just get me well-rounded in my position. And, where I was before, we were a very small and mighty team, as what we called ourselves, because there were only a few of us. And so with the task switching, we're always wearing different hats. And so that kind of helped me in the long run of being able to do different things well beyond the scope of what an ordinary marketing coordinator would do within their position. So that really helped me, progress much more quickly than, I think someone in that position would have been able to do anywhere else. So I think that really, really helped me accelerate in my career.
Awesome. Awesome. What about you guys? Do you, for Elda and Nikki, any experiences or anything that you remember when you first got that job that helped you to kind of overcome the first months or years of being the newbie?
Well, I think getting the job, that was the toughest part, really. I think touching on, Elda said something similar earlier, in that people are watching you even, before. And so I think really working on your soft skills, kind of also Maddie is touching on this also, work on your soft skills, right? Be able to speak well, be able to communicate well. The hiring managers, they're going to know that you're inexperienced at what you're doing. Your resume is not going to lie about that. So what they're hiring you on is not just about your ability to do the exact tasks that are required. They're hiring you on do they want to work with you day to day? Can they communicate well with you? And so building up your soft skills in the meantime is extremely important, as well as then networking and maintaining relationships, because you want people to think of you, even if there's not a job open right now, you want them to think of you when there is one. Oh, I have this person in mind, they'd be great in this role. And then they'll come back to you later. And so working on those types of skills and communicating well and building relationships was really important for me to get a job, right? I met somebody in boot camp. I maintained a relationship with her. She got her first job. They opened up another developer role and she said, I know someone who would be perfect for this, right? And I applied and I got it and I'm still there. But that's kind of how building a relationship really does pay off in the long run. And so then while I was there, it was nice because I was with somebody who was in my boot camp class. We were all very young. It was a startup. So I really lucked out in that it wasn't a high pressure role that I was expected to fill shoes that were too big for me. I was able to have the space to learn and grow and, get to where I am now with very little pressure. So I was very lucky in that. But I think, finding the person that seems trustworthy, that is approachable, that wants to help you very early on in your first new job and your role is important because they can kind of show you the ropes and kind of assuage any fears you might have or, assist in anything that you're struggling with. And so I think finding that person early on is important to being successful as well.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And Elda, for you, I'm actually curious, how was that process? Because for you, you not only changed career, but you also had to change the mindset from an employee to then becoming the owner. So I would think that it's even like double pressure, because just the whole world of entrepreneur, I don't even know how to say it, the whole world of being your business owner. It's challenging in itself. So you did that plus entering into a different field. So how was that initial change also? Because you said you never actually thought that you were going to be like a business owner.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually curious why you didn't think of that. I think from what we know. Oh, actually, I didn't tell people how I know each of you. Just quickly though, I know Elda through one of my first jobs right after college, and I was working for a nonprofit organization, HBIF, now it's called Prospera, that helps Hispanic entrepreneurs that wants to start or grow their business. That I actually interned for them when I was a student, and then I went and worked for an agency. I didn't like it, and then they gave me a job, talking about connections. But we shared offices with the Chamber of Commerce. And the Chamber of Commerce and HBI are very into business. So I always thought, like, from the other side of the office, I was like, oh yeah, she's an entrepreneur. She likes to have a business. I don't know.
It's so funny because I was the one that was, when I was working at the chamber, I was the one that was helping, the entrepreneurs and the businesses with connections and doing these events for them. And I was like, having a seat into, having these entrepreneurs come in and they want to grow their business. And it was great for me to see, hey, when we connected them, everything that we do here, it helps them grow. And I remember thinking, if I ever have a business, the first thing I would do is I would become chamber member. Because I saw, how people that really put the time and effort into networking and relationship building, it would work for them. Like I would see businesses literally hiring people, growing, getting clients because of these things that they were doing, because they were volunteering, they were, making time to meet people and all of these things. So guess what I did when I became an entrepreneur? I became a chamber member. I started volunteering in all the committees. I started, getting into all of the networking groups, the elite groups. I immediately became, the leader of one of the groups and so forth. So now I was the one fetching for business. Now I was the one trying to build this relationship, but to get myself some business. Sorry, I keep my laptop. So yes, the good thing is that at least I had built relationships where people trusted me. Now they needed to know, hey, can I trust this person on this new role? What does she know about human resources anyways? So obviously I went back, I got my certification on HR. So I didn't just, left it to, hey, me, give me a chance to help you with the HR. I went, got credentials, I did all the work. I shadowed my sister in different projects, we worked together. So I was in the learning curve as well. But the previous experience working with the small businesses and all of that gave me also a view of the struggles that they were having. So now I was, in my new HR role, part of actually solving some of those struggles that they're having, you know, with their HR, with their compliance, with labor law, with all of those things. So it was, I guess, I cannot say that it was like a seamless transition, but you know, the experience that I had with one job definitely helped me with the HR consultant that I am today, because of everything that I have learned with working with small and mid-sized businesses.
Awesome. And why you didn't think about having your own business at one point?
I don't know. I don't think or maybe not at that point where I was, you know, maybe I was thinking maybe somewhere in the future, you know, I'll do something, but yeah, it was just something that I guess life forced me into a space where now I cannot imagine myself going back to a company because it's a different thing. But I mean, never say never again.
That's true. That's true. So I think what I want to do is this. I actually would like for each of you to talk a little bit about your job, what you do, because I think all what you do are very fascinating. I don't know anything about HR, and actually Elda and I connected because now that I have the business, it's like I need to hire people and I don't know what to do. Nikki, I mean, I went to a boot camp for 8 weeks, and I thought that it was going to change my life. It was like every other Saturday, and I just like, oh no, I can't do this anymore. Because I mean, it's so, I admire you so much because there's so much attention to detail. It's kind of like learning a new language. So I think the audience also would like to know a little bit about what you do. And then Maddie, you and I are in the same industry. So like when you talk to me, it's like, oh yeah, this is my language. But for other people, maybe they'll say, what is the difference between a marketing coordinator, or an events planner, or demand generation? Like because in marketing we have a lot of titles. So what I was thinking is that, what about if we go around the table and you tell us a little bit about your role, and then after that, we're going to start answering questions from the audience. Sounds good? Awesome. Okay. Who would like to start?
I can start. Okay. So I'm a senior software engineer, and what that role is well, I guess let me start. If you started out from like a boot camp or something, you'd probably start as like a junior engineer, which is like really giving you a lot of space to learn and grow and make a lot of mistakes, and you know, you're heavily supervised on your like day-to-day work, right? We do something called pair programming, where you might work with a more experienced developer to kind of learn the ropes, and they'll kind of talk you through what you're doing. And it's just a very nice way to learn. Then you move up to kind of just like a developer role. And that is, you work a bit more independently, at least at my company, you work a bit more independently. You'll get some tasks and you knock them out at whatever your pace is, and that's when you kind of know when you need to ask for help, when you can just crush something on your own. And then once you get like a senior engineer level, you take on a little bit more responsibility in that you're kind of managing projects a bit, and kind of balancing the technical load among a few developers on your team, and technically leading projects. We also have a role that's above me that's like a platform engineer, and that is somebody who is like very dedicated, very, very knowledgeable, has many, many years of experience as an engineer. And then the other path is you can go towards engineering management, and that means you kind of run a development team and kind of help them with their career growth and making sure things run smoothly. And that's a bit more on the people side. And then a platform engineer, or there's all sorts of names that are similar. They kind of take the path of like a full technical career, and so they go down more heavy duty technical path. So those are the options as a developer.
A lot. That's good.
Next. So Alina, like you said, there's a lot of different marketing positions too. So I started as a marketing coordinator, which essentially marketing coordinators will help to kind of coordinate and execute marketing campaigns. They'll also help with in-person or virtual events. And so that was my first job in marketing. And then I moved on to what's called a demand generation manager, which helps to create demand in the market for a company. And so that was also focused on getting net new customers, so getting new customers for the company, and focused on prospecting and getting new leads in. And so again, that was a lot of strategizing, creating campaigns, creating larger events, this is how I, got to know Alina in the first place through a mutual contact. And then I moved on to the demand generation manager at my new company, which then moved me on to customer marketing, because that's where the greatest need was at the time. And so my company didn't have that role prior to me filling it. So I'm kind of in a unique opportunity where I really get to build everything out. So I have a lot of freedom in that regard. It is a lot of work, but I do love it. So with the customer marketing, it's focused on campaigns solely to customers. So it's on reducing customer churn and focusing on all of the customer retention. And those are all on focusing campaigns for product upgrades, upselling, cross-selling, where the greatest opportunity is for a certain campaign for a customer, that kind of stuff. And I just finished building out an entire customer, referral program too. Oh, wow. And in addition to that, like a customer advocacy program, an internal referral program. So those are all kind of items that I've had under the umbrella of a customer marketing, just in this one role. So it's been a lot, but it's been really kind of unique just within this one company Logically. So that's just a couple of different, there's again, like Alina had mentioned before, there's a ton of different specialized roles within marketing, which makes it such a really cool career path to go on, because you can really kind of create something unique in your own path. But it's just my kind of career progression within that space.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, they're also digital marketing, social media, content marketing, email marketing, SEO, SEM, media planning.
There's so much life cycle marketing. Yeah, there's so much.
Yes, a lot. And I think Elda knows too, because she was in marketing before. But tell us about HR.
I was in marketing before, and I love marketing. Still have a great part in my heart. And actually, I'm gonna plug in something. One of the things that I love doing as an HR consultant now is advising and telling companies out there and businesses that they forget how to market themselves as an employer. So whenever they need employees, they forget that they have an image to build as an employer, and that's all marketing. Marketing and HR have to work together to create that employer image that you want to achieve, so that people can want to go work for you, right? And that you don't do it last minute when you need people. Because branding is not something that you build, from day to another. You have to work at it. So if you're a business owner, you're listening, don't forget about your image as an employer. Anyhow, so what I do now is human resources. As a human resources, I call myself more as a generalist. So what we do is we work with different companies, and we basically become like the HR department that they outsource. So they may have somebody that does HR for them, and maybe that person needs help, or maybe they don't have the knowledge on compliance and labor law that they need in order to make decisions. Or we work with companies that they do not have an HR department, and we become the department for them, and we work for them on an ongoing basis and help them basically manage anything that has to do with their employees. So HR is also a broad field. If you're looking to do a career in HR, there's many different ways that you can go. So if you work for a company and you're the one HR or one of three or one of two, you're probably going to be more of a generalist, where you're helping the company basically organize anything that has to do with their employees, the hiring, the firing, the looking for people, the onboarding, the training, the payroll, the employment relationships, the compliance, the salary management, all of those things. If you work for a bigger company, you may have a department for each of those things. You may have a training and development department. You may have a hiring department. You may have a compliance department. You may have a benefits administration department. You may have a payroll department. So it all depends, what kind of broad company or smaller company you're dealing with. But I guess the tricky issue with the human resources field is that there are laws that regulate how to implement things. So whenever you are hiring a person, there is laws that you have to follow in order for you not to get in trouble, basically. So that's part of what I do.
Wow. Every world, like, you think it's like so out there, but everything is so huge. It's crazy. Okay, so thank you so much. We have 5 minutes for questions from the audience. So if you want to write it down, go ahead and write it in the chat. Okay, so there is one question that says, I have found that in your 30s and 40s, most people have other responsibilities outside of work, like family, and are less active, interested in networking, unlike young people and new grads. What have you found to be the most effective avenues and strategies to build network, connect with professionals and mentors later in your career life? Such a great question.
I think one thing that you can do is pick one thing and stick to it. So what I mean by that is that there's so many things out there, so many chambers of commerce, so many groups, so many meetups, and if you try to divide and conquer all of them, you're gonna fail and you're gonna get burned out. So choose one group, one organization that you can actually plant roots, and that's the way that you're going to build the more meaningful relationships.
I like it. I think the person that asked this, I know a little bit about their ages, and Nikki and Maddie are very young. So I don't think they have, they're not nowhere.
I'm in my 30s. I'm almost 40. I'll be 40 in a few years.
Oh, that's right. We have the same age, Nikki.
I'll be 37 in a couple weeks. So I think also, like, you have families, whatever, things like Meetup, where you can digitally meet up. You don't even have to leave your home, are valuable. Finding, the outlets that you can. If you have another career, like my boot camp was at night, and so I was able to work during the day and attend the boot camp at night. I was working a serving job, but because I had gotten laid off, but that and just I agree with Elda, like, find somewhere that feels good, feels valuable, feels like you're getting something out of it, and kind of give it some time to grow, because people are also going to come into and leave that, and, like, you'll meet new people even if you are staying in the same place. But even, if you're working in the city or wherever, just grab coffee. Even 5, 10, 15-minute chat is enough to build a relationship.
Yeah. Maddie?
I would say too, LinkedIn also, they have virtual events all the time. So if you join, like Elda said, that one thing, if you join communities of that one thing, they are always posting virtual events, depending on your time zone, where you live. Just pick something that has that niche that you're interested in looking for. Everything is recorded now too, so you can watch it later, and then you can see who's attending, you can connect with them, and then you can kind of build your network that way too.
And I think to add to it, and especially because, yeah, it is harder once you get older and your time is limited. It's more about quality than quantity, and something that I always do, and that's like my thing. It's like I always want to follow up, because even if you, like, let's say we do just one event, and maybe you meet one person at that event, you already invested the time in meeting that person. You already talked to that person for 5 minutes, or you went for coffee for 5 minutes. Don't let it die. Then continue. Like, hey, once in a while, how you doing? And just like in one message, it will take you 10 seconds to send. But following up, it will also help grow slowly your audience, but surely. I can't believe that it's time. I cannot believe it. Ladies, thank you so much. This was incredible. At the beginning of the session, I shared a link with some resources that we have shared with you. I'm going to update it with this recording and with additional resources that are here for you to use. So go ahead and click that and maybe bookmark it. I will still let you know once the session is available online for you to watch it. But I just want to say thank you. Thank you. This day is super emotional for me because it's the first day of Women Who Market Day, and I will always remember it. I'm gonna get emotional. So thank you.